My name is Sirish Pulusani. I am the wellness director at a health optimization and longevity center called Next Health. And more so than anything, I am just super passionate about health and longevity and how to help humans thrive and reach their potential. The bottom line is my goal is to keep people as healthy as possible for as long as possible, and figuring out how ways to do that is the most important thing for me. And so, just a little bit of background, I will be posting a ton of content going forward. I'll be doing interviews going forward, and I'm going to leverage a lot of the specific knowledge I've accumulated over the years. I want to tell you a little bit about my background. Me personally, as a young kid, ever since I could remember, I dealt with a lot of chronic health issues, and mainly centered around allergies, atopic allergies, specifically atopic dermatitis. It was very, very severe growing up. It was very difficult for me for literally the first 3 decades of my life. I'm talking about very chronic symptoms, always feeling sick, never feeling 100%, never being able to sleep properly, be active, always kind of itching and had open lesions. And I used to go see doctors all the time. I have a bunch of family who are doctors, and just looking back, they all tried to help as much as possible, but it was always around, let's how do we resolve these symptoms? There was never any questions asked about, what's actually causing these issues. Is there any broader things we could look into? Getting prescribed a lot of corticosteroids, even powerful immune suppressants like prednisone, which have its own massive effects. And, this really led me down kind of my own rabbit hole. And in fact, I pursued medicine. I did, a biology undergrad. I worked at Mass General Hospital doing endocrinology research. I ended up going to medical school in India, actually, at Manipal. Did a couple years over there, came back to do rotations over here. During that time, I was dealing with just very, very significant illness the entire time. And the course of atopic dermatitis, it goes ups and downs, right? So there's moments where you do feel a little bit of relief, and then there's just massive flare ups that could just floor you for you just can't even get out of bed. And I found myself viscerally just it was shortly after I turned 30. I was back in the U.S. studying for my first set of board exams, the USMLE Step One, and I couldn't even get out of bed to go take a shower. It was ridiculous. I had lesions all over my body. I was not talking to any friends, or I didn't even want to talk to family. It was just, I literally felt I was like 80 or 90 years old, and I was 30 years old. And it was just I remember thinking, like, how could I live like this? How could I even go on like this? It takes your physical body is deteriorating, but it's obviously taking a toll on your mental state as well, right? And I really, really felt that. But I've always felt also very grateful in many ways. I felt grateful because one resource that wasn't lacking was kind of financial support around me, in the sense that I never had to worry about going hungry or anything. And Because of that, I had to take leaves of absence, but I also dove into what I knew, and I'd been given this education, going through medical school, and just my curiosities alone. I finally was trying to understand this better, and one realization I had, even at the sickest points in my life, was that things are changing fast. Like technology is changing fast. And I had read this book called The Singularity is Near. It came out, I think, in like 2005, 2006, but I had heard Ray Kurzweil speak in 2007, and started getting into the book and everything else. And it essentially just showed this premise of what is possible through technology, that things were happening at an exponential rate, change was happening. While we still didn't understand some very basic things about human biology, we're going to get there eventually, and it's happening in our lifetime. 100 years ago, we barely saw changes in health in our lifetime, potentially. I mean, over 100 years ago we might have seen it, but 500 years ago, much, much slower. But now, every month, every week, there's new technology coming out. Things are always changing. So the hope I clung to during those dark times was science and technology and the will of people to make changes. Like this was my North Star. I was like, well, look, I just gotta hang in there, figure out what I can, and things will happen. Like things will change, and we'll figure this problem out. Mind you, I can barely get out of bed. So eventually, what happened is I was doing about my medical rotations. I could barely walk half the time because of the lesions on my foot. And by 2000, I think it was 2015, I started just really getting into other things, like thinking about nutrition and different things. But at the same time, a medication was going through clinical trials called dupilumab. It was a monoclonal antibody, and it showed a lot of promise. A lot of patients were saying, "Oh my God, it's clearing everything up." Even though I was seeing a bunch of physicians, not a single one told me about it, but it was just through my own research I found out about it. I was somehow able to enroll in a clinical trial in the last minute through just calling a bunch of people. I literally just moved to Miami to be a part of this clinical trial, and it changed the game for me. Within a week, I knew I was not getting the placebo; I was getting the real medication, and my skin started clearing up. I started getting better. I have before and after pictures. It's crazy the progression within 4 weeks. Open weeping lesions that I had been on my body for years, literally years, started clearing up. So this was just so significant. And for the first time in my life, I just felt like, why, my God, I felt like a normal human being, and it was wild. And so I went through this. It was a 16-week period, and I felt healthy, and I was like, oh my God, this is the solution to everything. Like I feel healthy, my skin cleared up, I felt good. At the end of that trial, they re-randomized me because we were still going through clinical trials, and they said, you could go into the open label portion where we give you the medication. It's going to be it's going to be a ways off, but we're doing another clinical trial that's going to test different dosages. And they said, you could be a part of this, or we could go back to some older medication that you're using. And I was like, well, I want this medication. It's not going to be on the market for a while, so I'll do whatever the hell you tell me at this point. Went back in the trial. This was a 36-week trial testing two different dosages. This time I got the placebo. And that was its own eye-opening revelation, because I go from 16 weeks of just health and just feeling great to then just deteriorating completely again. And thinking back on that time, I actually think about it now as one of the most significant things that's ever happened to me, in the sense that it led to just tremendous growth and perspective. I mean, you can't buy this type of perspective that I got here, because I went from being healthy and just once again, like feeling like I was invincible, to having a hard time getting out of bed. And the hardest thing I did in the morning was getting into the shower that day, because when you have open weeping lesions, you didn't sleep all the whole night because you're all bloody and itching, and then you try and take a shower, oh my God, it's just very difficult. And I remember thinking in that moment, I was like, no matter what happens to me in the future, remember this moment, because this is how hard it is in this moment. And at the end of the 16-week trial, things start becoming easy, and then we start having our own problems, meaning we acclimate to the present circumstances, and the small things still get under our skin, right? But this new phase showed me a way different appreciation for life. And I was just like, never forget this. Never forget what you have when you have good health. There's that quote that people talk about, a healthy person wants 1,000 things. An unhealthy person wants one thing. They just want to be healthy. And that's real. I just felt that to the core of my bones, this happened for 36 weeks, skin deteriorating, health deteriorating, had to put everything on pause again. And I was going through this. And then luckily, I made it through that journey. At the end of the 36 weeks, they opened up the open label, and I got the medication, and I was healthy again. And I was not only healthy again, I was healthy again with a new perspective on life. And, when you go through something like that, everything I've been through, it changes everything. It changes how you see the world. Luckily, I've always been a very optimistic, curious person. Certainly, the health issues took a toll on me, but that optimism remains to this day. And now, as I look back on that journey, it's the most important thing, obviously, for me, in the sense that it led to tremendous growth and perspective. And so I'm actually grateful for it. I would never wish it upon anybody. I never want to go through it again. But that type of adversity also brings about a lot of positive things. And so I personally look back on that, even though it was hard, as something I'm grateful for. But now that I'm healthy and feeling good, so let's turn it back to 2017, actually end of 2016. I was, medical school. I was finishing up, just different sets of board exams, the last set of the step exams. And then what was happening is like, I hated it. I hated what I was doing. I did not like it. It was causing me even more stress. I was not a person who was good at just memorizing pharmacodynamics and, figuring out how to just administer medication constantly, which was what it was turning into at that point. And my deep interest was actually in more lifestyle changes. And I was just like, after all this education, I knew nothing about nutrition. I knew really nothing about exercise and movement. I knew really nothing about sleep. I was realizing it was making a major impact on me. And then, I was really getting into things like mindfulness and reading things like Full Catastrophe Living, which shows showing the impact of mindful states on things like pain management. And so I was putting all of this information together, and I was just like, wow, like the biggest variables in health are often the food we eat, our movement, the quality of our sleep, our mindfulness, our state of mind in general, how we manage stress. And this was never talked about in health or in medical school or any of the stuff I was doing before. And looking back, one of the things that growing up, I ate like crap. I was eating Fruit Loops in the morning. I was just eating junk all the time. I was never able to sleep well because I was always just itchy at night. I was never able to move effectively or even play sports after a while because of the debilitating illness and the atopic dermatitis. So for like 20 years, I was going through this. This took a toll on me, right? And so I got really interested in all of these topics, and I kind of just followed my curiosity. And at that point, I was like, I don't think I want to follow this path as becoming a doctor and working, and this is just not something that makes sense to me. Let me just follow this other things that I'm curious about. I dropped everything in Florida. I moved to Los Angeles, where my brothers were. I used to visit Los Angeles. I loved it, the land of sunshine and limitless possibilities. And it was there that the most important thing to me at that time was, quite frankly, after I got healthy, was just reestablishing relationships. When you're unhealthy, you just want to shield yourself from the world. When you're healthy, you want to open up. So I moved in. Luckily, my older brother took me in. His wife, my sister-in-law, was pregnant with their first child, 9 months pregnant. In fact, they let me stay in the spare room. And then, it's just been a journey since then. I started working at this company called Next Health. I became their lead health coach. I'm for the past 6 years, it's been a deep, deep study of everything related to nutrition and movement and lifestyle changes and preventative health and longevity, just nonstop. And not only that, just working with clients. I've started seeing clients years ago, and multiple clients a day, 8 9 sometimes. And so I had all of this kind of esoteric knowledge, all this research knowledge. And then the goal was to take all that knowledge, and then once you start working with clients, you start seeing something different, that what we learn kind of in isolation doesn't necessarily work in practice in real life, because you come up against a lot of other barriers, time constraints, for instance, busy lifestyles, a lot of different things. And so I had to figure all of that out. And I just got better and better at that. It became a passion of mine, given more and more responsibility. And now I'm very, very lucky that, I run some of the most significant longevity programs. I work, with high-end clients on just for better health outcomes, looking at blood work. And, my major goal right now is I've built up so much specific knowledge that I just want to share it with the world. And that's what I plan to do on this channel. So whoever's still watching this, I realize I'm 15 minutes in. Thank you for that. I just would love your feedback. Open to any suggestions. Stay with me on this journey, and because there's still so much ahead, so much to learn, and we are entering a phase of time where things are going to change rapidly. There's going to be rapid, amazing things on the horizon. So if you are dealing with health issues, if you want to optimize your health, this is what I'm interested in, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. So stay with me on this journey, and thank you for listening.